Hey guys, welcome to this video. Here we're going to be talking about how we can recognize write-offs in the period that they occur. Now, there's going to be two types of jobs we'll have. One is our actual time and cost jobs, where we don't have a quote, we just do our timesheets and bill those timesheets. The other one is where we have a quote in the system, where we've priced the job, and then we've accepted that quote, we do our timesheets, then we're going to be invoicing a chunk of those fixed fee line items. So for example, we may have concept design and we have a fixed fee for it. We'll be invoicing a percentage of that. So the question becomes, how do we take the invoiced amount and apportion it back up against those timesheets? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump in and I'm going to show you how we do it for these quoted jobs, but I'm going to talk to the method for our actual time and cost jobs. So with our actual time and cost, it's really easy. We do our timesheets, we do our invoice as a progress invoice, and then we elect which timesheets we want to write off by clicking into the task and selecting no on that timesheet entry. That'll write off the timesheet entries that we elected no on, whether we want to bill them or not. So it's really as simple as that. We're going to go through for our actual time and cost jobs as progress invoices. And when you close the job out, you want to choose a final invoice because it's the last invoice on the job. That writes off any work in progress that doesn't get billed, and then you can close the job out with no work in progress. Because it's got no work in progress, it means we've recognized all the write-ups and write-offs against the appropriate timesheet entries. That's really easy. That's our time and cost jobs. Progress invoices as you're working through the job, and then a final invoice when it has finished. Now, with our quota jobs, this is a little bit more, not difficult, but there's a slightly different method that we take. So what we're doing is we price the job, which I'm going to show you shortly, and then we do our invoices as a final invoice if we want to recognize the write-offs in that period. When we do a progress invoice on a quoted job, it creates an interim invoice for us. And that interim invoice sits there as a negative WIP balance. And when we do our timesheet entries, those are positive WIP balances. So imagine this is our interims and this is our work in progress. So if we do an interim, it'll go up here, then we do our timesheets. Then we do another interim, then we do our timesheets. So if we want to recognize the write-offs within the period, what we're going to be doing is a final invoice. So when we do that final invoice, it doesn't treat it as an interim. It treats it as a final invoice against the timesheets that were done. I'm going to show you that very, very shortly. So that's the difference between the two methods. One is the actual time and cost. We're going to be invoicing as progress invoices, whereas the quoted, we invoice as final invoices throughout the project if we're wanting to recognize those write-ons and write-offs in that period that they occur. So let's jump in and I'll show you how we can do that. So here is my job here, and I'm just going to go to financial and show you that I have a quote all set up. So I've got a quote that's accepted for $13,500, and those are my stages there. So what I've also got in the next screen over, I'm just going to jump over, is this is a WIP report that I've created. So we're going to look at the WIP line items, and all of this information here is what feeds into link reporting, and that's going to be determining our write-ons and write-offs in our system there. So what I'll do here is I'm going to come back, I'm going to do a couple of timesheet entries to start with. So let's say on the 31st, or let's go to the 30th of March. Let's do a couple of timesheet entries for concept design. Do another one here for 3 hours, like that, and we'll do one more. Great, 4 hours. Cool. So we've got 2, 3, and 4 hours. Now, if I go over to my report and hit refresh, we're going to see these 3 timesheet entries arrive in here, just like that. And you'll notice that there's nothing invoiced and there's been no write-ups or write-offs. So now if I go and do my invoice, if I go financial, if I do a new progress invoice, I'm going to do a new progress invoice, I'm going to delete it and come back into a final so you can see how this works. So if I go new progress invoice, choose quoted or estimated time and costs. Now what I want to do is also run a job financial summary here. So I'm just jumping back into the job, I'm going to run a financial summary to see how much we need to bill. So here's our financial summary. And we need to bill $15.90, all right? So if I copy that, I'm going to uncheck these items here because we're only billing concept design for $15.90. And then I'm going to just go, I'm going to bill $1,700 because I want to recognize a write-off here. So we're going to write-up, sorry, I'm going to recognize a write-up. So if I go approve, what this is going to do is it is going to put an interim value in here for me. So you can see that we haven't recognized any write-ups on any of these timesheet entries. It's just put a $1,700 interim in there. And then it has given me All up, we've got a $110 write-up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and delete this invoice and re-put it through as a final invoice so you can see how this looks. So I'm just going to go delete the invoice like that. Jump back into the job. And let's do the exact same invoice, but this time we're going to do it as a final invoice. So if we go new final invoice, go quoted, and it's going to be exactly the same. We're going to remove these and then make that one 1700 just as we did before. And then I'm going to go approve. Now if I jump back to my report here, I'm going to refresh, and what's going to happen is that interim is going to disappear because we deleted that invoice, and we're going to see how it impacts this report with a final invoice. So what it's done this time is it's apportioned the invoice amount against the various timesheet entries. So because we invoiced an extra $110, we've got a total $110 there as a write-up, and it's been apportioned evenly across those timesheet entries based on the number of hours that were done. So that's how we're going to recognize our write-ups there. So in summary, what I wanted to show you in this video here is if we're wanting to recognize the write-ups and write-offs within the period, what we're going to do as a final invoice for our billing, because if we do them as progress invoices, we're just going to accumulate those interims and we're not going to be recognizing those write-ups until we close that job out. So if we have a job that's open for 12 months, we're not going to have any write-ons on write-offs until we close the job out at the end of those 12 months. Whereas if we're doing final invoices along the way, we're going to be recognizing in that month what the write-ups and write-offs were. So that is the method for recognizing your write-ups and write-offs on a quota job. So the key there is we're doing final invoices, whereas we're going to be careful if we're doing that for our actual time and cost invoices because we may be writing off timesheet entries that we don't intend to. So rule of thumb for our actual time and cost invoices, we're doing progress invoices as we go and finishing with a final, whereas with our quoted jobs, we're going to be doing final invoices if we're wanting to recognize those write-ons and write-offs within the specific period. I hope that all makes sense. If you do have any questions, let us know in the chat, and I'll see you in the next video.